The scream came from somewhere below the tower, sharp and abrupt, cutting through the dead of night silence like a knife. Zara Obi froze in the hallway, her fingers gripping the tray of untouched medication so tightly that the edges dug into her palms. The sound had ended almost as quickly as it started, replaced by the harsh screech of tires and a single gunshot that echoed against the concrete walls. Her breath caught in her throat. Somewhere beneath her, chaos was unfolding, and she was trapped in the middle of it. The tray slipped from her hands, pills scattering across the marble floor in silent rebellion. Zara's heart hammered in her chest as she instinctively moved toward the window. From 20 floors above, she could see the underground garage. Black SUVs blocked the exit, men in black suits moving with terrifying precision as they dragged a limp body across the concrete, leaving a streak of red behind. "You weren't supposed to hear that," a calm voice said from behind. Zara spun around to see two guards, their faces blank, emotionless, yet their presence screamed authority. I thought someone needed help," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "In this building, help doesn't scream," the taller guard replied, his grip firm but polite as they guided her back toward the private medical wing. Inside, the air was heavy with the hum of machines. The weak light from the monitors cast long shadows across the room, illuminating the frail form of Chairman Kang Dae-shik. His eyes opened as he sensed her presence, a faint glint of recognition passing through them. "Did you hear it?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Zara hesitated, nodding slowly. Kang exhaled, a mixture of relief and worry crossing his lined face. "Then it has begun," he murmured. She didn't understand, not yet, but as the door clicked shut and the guards doubled their watch outside, she felt the shift. She was no longer just a caregiver, she was a witness. And in this house, witnesses rarely lived long. Zara's journey in Seoul had begun 2 years ago, full of hope but quickly drowning in struggle. The city was a web of opportunity and exploitation, and she had learned early that hard work was never enough. From back-breaking hours at restaurants to cleaning floors in the pouring rain for paltry wages, she had scraped through every obstacle. Yet despite the exhaustion and loneliness, she had persevered. Her first days with Kang Dae-shik had been like stepping into a different world. The mansion was a palace of secrets, each corridor lined with surveillance cameras, each room filled with expensive yet impersonal furnishings. She struggled to find her rhythm, to understand the routines and the hierarchy of people who moved around him. Kang was distant at first, a man consumed by his own fading strength and the relentless awareness of mortality. But gradually, in small moments, when she held the cup of water just so, when she adjusted his pillows with precision, he began to notice. "You have patience," he murmured one evening, the sound of the oxygen machine filling the pauses between his words. Zara smiled politely, unsure how to respond. That small acknowledgement felt like the first flicker of light in a house, otherwise filled with shadows. But the flicker didn't last long. Rumors of danger were constant. Zara had caught whispers of rival factions, threats exchanged in the private offices of the syndicate. She had even found herself inadvertently listening to phone conversations where someone mentioned her name with suspicion. Fear had become a constant companion, but there was no turning back. Her survival, and her family's, depended on navigating this perilous environment with caution and courage. Then came the night when Kang summoned her to his private study, a room filled with the scent of aged wood and expensive cigar smoke. He sat back in his chair, frail but commanding, and spoke in a tone that made the room feel smaller, the air thicker. "Zara," he said, "I need to tell you something important." She sat across from him, heart still racing from the earlier incident in the garage. "Yes, sir," she replied, trying to steady her voice. "My family, my daughters, they will not continue my legacy." he said slowly, each word weighted with gravity. Without a male heir, everything I have built will crumble. The Baekho Syndicate will fracture. People will die. Zara swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. I don't understand, she whispered. You will, Kang said, his eyes locking onto hers. I want you to help me preserve it. I want you to bear my child. The words hit her like a thunderclap. Her mind screamed no, but her body froze. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe properly. She had expected danger in this house. She had expected threats and violence, but she had never expected this. It's impossible, she managed to whisper, trembling. I can't. You can, he interrupted gently. And I will make sure you are protected, and your family taken care of. It will be legal. It will be safe. Her stomach twisted. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to escape this nightmare. Yet the thought of her family, of the debts that weighed heavily on her back, made her pause. Could survival sometimes mean sacrifice? Could courage mean facing the unthinkable? Over the following days, Zara wrestled with the decision. She spoke to herself quietly at night, pacing the corridors, running scenarios through her mind. She imagined rejection, anger, shame, and the inevitable wrath of Kang's daughters if they learned the truth. She imagined betrayal, violence, and even death. And yet, the alternative, leaving without help, abandoning her family, was impossible. It was during one of these sleepless nights that she first noticed the daughter watching her from the corner of the hallway. Kang Ye-rin, the eldest, had a glare that could curdle blood. Zara flinched and tried to ignore her, but the silent threat lingered. Kang So-ah watched more subtly, her expression neutral but calculating, and Kang Ji-won, the youngest, fidgeted with impatience and barely contained fury. The daughters would not be allies. They would not be neutral. They were obstacles, threats to every step she took. Meanwhile, Kang Dae-shik's health continued to deteriorate. Each cough, each tremor, reminded Zara that time was limited. Yet in private moments, Kang spoke softly, almost like a man relieved to have someone see him as more than a title or a weapon. He shared small details of his life, of regrets, and of fleeting happiness. You are the only person who has seen me without fear, he whispered one night. It is rare. The weeks that followed were a careful dance between duty and danger. Zara learned to move with caution, to notice the smallest shifts in the household staff, to read the subtle signs of aggression from the daughters. She learned to hide her fear behind a veneer of calm. She learned that survival required not just strength, but intelligence, patience, and sometimes moral compromise. And then one evening, Kang summoned her once more, a legal contract in hand. If you agree, he said, placing the papers on the table between them, your family will be safe, and you will be provided for. But you must choose soon. There is no time for hesitation. Zara stared at the document, her hands shaking. Every cell in her body screamed against it, but her mind calculated, measured, and weighed the impossible consequences. She looked at Kang, frail but steady in his gaze, and knew that whatever she decided would change her life, and the lives of everyone she loved, forever. Her eyes flicked back toward the hallway. The shadows seemed darker tonight, the distant hum of the city sharper, more menacing. Danger was a constant companion in this house, and she had only begun to understand its depth. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she wondered if courage could ever outweigh fear. And as she lifted the pen to sign, her heart caught between dread and the faintest glimmer of hope. If you were in Zara's shoes, what would you do? Comment below and let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe to follow her journey as danger escalates around every corner. The following morning, Zara woke with the weight of the contract pressing on her chest, as if the papers had fused themselves to her skin overnight. Kang Daishik's study was quiet when she returned, the faint hum of the city below barely audible. He sat behind his massive desk, a small lamp casting a warm glow on his lined face, his fingers resting lightly on the contract. "You've thought it over?" he asked softly. Zara swallowed hard. Her throat felt dry, her stomach twisting with anxiety. I think I understand what you're asking," she whispered. "But it doesn't make it any easier." Kang nodded. "It never will be easy. Life rarely is. But sometimes survival requires more than courage. It requires compromise." Her hands trembled as she took the pen, staring down at the fine print. Each clause was painstakingly detailed: financial security for her family, legal protection in Korea and abroad, guaranteed living arrangements once the child was born. There were security measures, medical provisions, and stipulations ensuring the child's inheritance. Every line was calculated to protect her, and yet the weight of what it demanded, the sacrifice, the moral burden, was suffocating. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted, voice barely audible. I'm not sure I can bear the responsibility, or the shame." "You are stronger than you realize," Kang said gently, "and you are not alone in this. I will protect you. I promise." The pen hovered over the paper for a long moment. Then slowly, Zara signed. The sound of ink scratching against paper felt louder than any gunshot she had ever heard. Her decision was made. She was stepping into a world she could barely comprehend. Over the next few days, life in the mansion became a tense, intricate dance. Kang's daughters grew more distant, their glances sharper, their whispers sharper still. Yerin's stare seemed to pierce Zara's very soul whenever they crossed paths. Soa's neutral expression concealed simmering calculation, while Jiwon fidgeted with barely contained frustration, her impatience almost palpable. Despite the danger, Zara tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy. She continued her caregiving duties with meticulous precision, checking monitors, administering medication, and maintaining the fragile routine that kept Kang alive. But even routine had become dangerous. A spilled cup could be misinterpreted. A slight misstep could trigger suspicion. It was during one quiet evening, when the city outside was bathed in the soft glow of streetlights, that Zara first suspected something had changed within her own body. Nausea came in waves, sudden and unrelenting. Her hands shook as she held a glass of water, the liquid sloshing over the rim. She sat on the edge of the bed, pressing a hand to her stomach, her mind racing with fear, hope, and disbelief. The following morning, she confided in Kang. I think I might be pregnant," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He leaned forward, eyes softening. "Then it has begun," he murmured, a faint smile breaking through his exhaustion. His frailty seemed to vanish for a moment, replaced by the quiet authority of a man securing his legacy. "We must be careful," he added. "If the family discovers this too soon—" He trailed off, letting the unspoken danger linger in the air. Word of the pregnancy could not remain a secret for long. It was only a matter of time before Kang's daughters noticed the subtle changes. The way Zara moved, the way she occasionally paused to steady herself, the way Kang's attention seemed more focused on her than anyone else. It happened sooner than she expected. During dinner one evening, Zara brought a tray of food to the table. Yerin's sharp gaze locked onto her midstep, and her lips curved into a thin, cold smile. "I suppose you're expecting then," she said, voice flat but venomous. Zara's stomach clenched. Yes," she admitted cautiously, every muscle tense, every nerve alert. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Soa raised an eyebrow, her expression carefully neutral, while Jiwon's fists clenched in barely restrained anger. Their mother, Madame Seo Min-jae, did not speak immediately. Her gaze swept over Zara with measured calculation, as though assessing a threat she had yet to fully understand. "You will regret this," Yerin said finally, her voice low and dangerous. "Everything your child represents will bring nothing but chaos to this family." Zara's breath caught. Fear, anger, and defiance warred within her. "I am not here to take from you," she said steadily. "I am here because it was asked of me. And I will do what I must to survive and protect my child." Madame Seo Minjae's lips pressed into a thin line. She did not respond verbally, but the shift in the room's tension was palpable. The daughters exchanged subtle glances, silent alliances forming and reforming in the shadows. Over the following weeks, Zara's life became a careful navigation of threats, both overt and hidden. She discovered subtle harassment. Notes left on her bedside table, a spill of water on the floor meant to trip her, whispered threats from servants who feared the daughter's wrath. Each incident reinforced the reality. She was in the middle of a war she could barely comprehend, a pawn whose survival required vigilance, cunning, and absolute composure. It was during one of these nights, as she returned from tending to Kang, that she first met her protector. Captain Junhua, a man of imposing stature and silent authority, had been assigned to her safety. His presence was intimidating but strangely reassuring. "You will follow my instructions without question," he said simply. "Your life depends on it." Zara nodded, understanding the weight of the words. This was no longer just about her. Every step she took, every decision she made, had consequences reaching far beyond the walls of the mansion. One night, as she prepared medication, Junhua appeared silently in the doorway. "The family is restless," he said quietly. "They will not tolerate delays or mistakes." "I know," Zara replied. "Every move I make feels like walking a tightrope." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Then walk carefully. And remember, I am here. Always." Despite his words, Zara could not shake the constant sense of being watched, of being judged, of danger lurking behind every shadow. Pregnancy, once a private realization, had become a catalyst for tension, a spark igniting existing rivalries and resentments within the household. The daughters' hostility escalated. Yerin began openly questioning Zara's decisions, challenging her at every turn. So-Ah whispered warnings to staff, undermining Zara subtly yet effectively. Ji-won's impatience erupted in sudden outbursts, leaving Zara constantly on edge, unsure when the next confrontation would erupt. Kang, though frail, remained her anchor. "Do not let them see your fear," he advised one evening, placing a frail hand on hers. "They feed on it. Strength is not only in muscle or weapon, it is in resolve, in mind, in heart." Zara nodded, understanding the truth in his words, even as the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders. Each night she lay awake, thinking of the child growing within her, the dangers that awaited, and the impossible choice she had made. Fear and hope mingled in equal measure, creating a tension she could not release, a constant reminder that survival would require every ounce of courage she possessed. And in the background, unseen but palpable, the wheels of the Baekho Syndicate continued to turn. Rumors of dissent, whispered threats from rival families, and subtle sabotage created an invisible storm that Zara could neither ignore nor escape. She was trapped, yet determined. Every day was a battle of wits, endurance, and emotional fortitude. Every glance from the daughters was a test. Every movement within the mansion required calculation. And every night, as she looked at the small room prepared for her child, she whispered a silent promise. She would survive. She would protect her child. And she would endure whatever this house, and the people in it, threw at her. By the end of the second week, The tension had escalated to a near boiling point. Zara knew that it was no longer a question of whether the daughters would act against her. It was only a matter of when. Every encounter, every word, every gesture was a potential spark. And Zara had learned that in this household, a single spark could ignite a fire that would consume everything. Even as fear gripped her, determination hardened within her chest. She had signed the contract. She had accepted the risk. And now, there was no turning back. If you think you could survive in Zara's situation, comment below and tell us what you would do. Make sure to like and subscribe. Her journey is only getting more dangerous, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The days blurred together in a haze of careful movements and constant vigilance. Zara Obi felt the weight of eyes on her at every moment, the subtle glances from Kang's daughters like needles pressing against her skin. She had learned quickly. One misstep, one word out of place, and the consequences could be deadly. One evening, as Zara prepared Kang's medication, she felt a subtle shift in the household. Staff. The cook dropped a tray clumsily, eyes darting toward the door. The maid's hand trembled as she handed Zara the folded laundry. Small, almost insignificant incidents, but Zara recognized the pattern. The tension in the mansion was reaching a dangerous peak. "Captain," she whispered later that night, speaking to Junhua as they walked through the dimly lit corridor. "The family. They're testing me. Every step I take, every action, they're watching." Junhua's expression was unreadable. "They are testing all of us," he said calmly. "You must remain vigilant. One mistake, and they will act. They have no mercy for weakness." Zara nodded, swallowing hard. Fear coiled tightly in her stomach, but she had long ago learned to mask it with calm. "What if they try something? What if it's not just intimidation this time?" "Then I will protect you," he replied simply. "But you must listen. No hesitation. No doubt. Your life, and the child's, depends on it." The very next night, Zara's fears became reality. She had been walking back from the kitchen, a tray of tea in hand, when the hallway suddenly went dark. The lights flickered and went out completely. Her pulse raced. She froze, ears straining in the darkness. Then she heard it. A low click from the far end of the corridor, followed by the metallic whisper of a sliding blade. Instinct took over. Zara dropped the tray, spilling hot tea across the floor, and ran toward the nearest door. A shadow moved with her, fast and silent, the glint of a knife catching what little light remained. She screamed, heart pounding, but a strong hand closed around her wrist, spinning her to safety. Junhua. He had moved like a phantom, intercepting the attacker with lethal precision. The knife clattered to the floor, and the intruder fled down the stairs. Zara's body trembled as he guided her to safety, keeping her close. "Are you hurt?" he asked, eyes scanning the corridor for any lingering threat. "No," she whispered, shaking. "But they tried. They really tried." "They will try again," Junhua said calmly. "And each attempt will grow bolder. You must be prepared." The attack sent a shiver through Zara, but it also ignited something else. A steely determination. She could not allow fear to control her. Not now, not ever. Every day, every breath, every heartbeat was a battle for survival, and she was learning to fight. The following morning, Kang summoned her once more. He looked frail, his breathing shallow, but his eyes were sharp, focused. "They have begun testing you," he said. "It will get worse. But you are strong, Zara. Remember that." She nodded, swallowing back fear. "I will not fail," she said firmly, though the weight of the threat pressed on her chest like a boulder. "You may not be able to prevent everything," Kang said softly, "but you can survive. And survival is everything." As the weeks passed, the Tension in the mansion escalated. Zara learned to read the smallest gestures from Kang's daughters, Yerin's subtle nods and sharp glances, So-Ah's quiet manipulation, Ji-won's impatient pacing and barely contained hostility. Every encounter was a potential trap, every word a test. One evening, Zara sat in the nursery, hands resting on her swelling stomach. She spoke quietly to the child growing inside her, almost as if the baby could hear her. "We'll make it," she whispered. "We have to. I won't let them hurt us. Not you. Not me." Her resolve strengthened, but the danger was relentless. Notes were slipped under her door, threatening messages left in her room, subtle attempts to unsettle her at every turn. Even the servants seemed complicit, their fear of the daughters translating into silent sabotage. Junhua remained her constant shadow, watching, protecting, guiding. "Do not underestimate them," he warned one night as they walked the halls together. "They are clever, ruthless, and patient. One lapse, and it could cost everything." "I know," Zara replied, "but I will not let them win. I cannot." It was during a late night while Zara was checking on Kang that the next attack came. This time, it was more sophisticated. A hidden door, a silently armed intruder, and a calculated attempt to corner her in the study. Zara's pulse skyrocketed as she tried to think, tried to move, tried to survive. Junhua appeared just in time, intercepting the attacker with precise, controlled force. The struggle was brief, but violent. Zara could hear her own heartbeat in her ears, each beat a drum of terror and adrenaline. When it was over, the intruder lay unconscious, and Junhua guided Zara away from the scene, his grip firm and reassuring. "You are learning," he said quietly as they paused in a secure room. "But you must stay alert. Every day, every moment, they will test you further. You are a target, Zara, and always will be until this child is born and safe." Zara nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. The fear was constant, gnawing at her, but so was determination. She could not allow herself to falter. Not for her, not for the child, not for the future they both deserved. In the days that followed, Zara began to strategize. She learned to move through the mansion with calculated steps, to notice every change in lighting, every slight sound. She memorized hidden exits, escape routes, and places where she could seek shelter if attacked. Every moment was a lesson in vigilance, every day a preparation for the worst. Meanwhile, the daughter's hostility became more pronounced. Yerin began overtly challenging her at mealtimes, questioning her decisions, undermining her authority in front of the household staff. So-Ah manipulated minor mishaps to blame Zara, while Jiwon's impatience turned into open threats. The environment was a powder keg, and Zara felt the tension coiling around her like a living thing, ready to explode at any moment. Yet even in the darkness, there were moments of human connection. Kang Daishik's gratitude, Junhua's silent support, and the occasional kindness from staff who recognized Zara's courage reminded her that she was not entirely alone. These fleeting moments of reassurance kept her anchored, even as the world around her teetered on the edge of chaos. One night, as Zara sat quietly in the nursery, she spoke to the child within her once more. "We are stronger than they think," she whispered, "and I will protect you, whatever it takes." Little did she know, the next test would be even closer, more dangerous, and more personal than anything she had faced so far. Zara's life had become a careful balance of survival and preparation. Every day was a test, every glance a potential threat. But despite the danger, she knew she could not stay. The mansion had become a cage, the daughter's hostility intensifying with each passing hour. Junhua had been quietly preparing her for an escape, teaching her the routes, the codes, and the moments when the guard's attention would falter. "You must leave quietly," he said one night, his voice low but firm. They will notice immediately if you are careless. One mistake, and it could cost your life. And the child's. Zara nodded, her heart pounding. I understand, she whispered. Fear coiled tightly in her stomach, but determination steeled her. She could not allow them to take what was hers to protect. The night of the escape, the mansion was unusually quiet. The lights dimmed, the corridors empty, as Zara followed Junhwa's instructions with painstaking precision. Every step was calculated, every breath measured. She felt the weight of the contract, the responsibility for the child, and the trust Kang had placed in her. It all pressed down like a stone in her chest. They had almost reached the garage when the first obstacle struck. A figure appeared at the far end of the corridor. Ye-rin, eyes blazing with fury, and a small group of allies in tow. Going somewhere? Ye-rin sneered, her voice a whip crack in the silence. Zara froze. Panic surged, but Junhwa moved instantly, positioning himself between her and the attackers. Step aside, he said, calm but deadly. His presence was a shield, his gaze a warning. Ye-rin lunged, and the corridor erupted into chaos. Zara barely had time to duck as Junhwa intercepted her, deflecting blows and pushing them back toward the stairwell. A shot rang out, someone had fired a gun, and the sound reverberated through the concrete halls like a thunderclap. In the chaos, Zara's mind raced. She had to keep moving. Every second counted. Junhwa's voice cut through the noise. Run! Now! She obeyed instinctively, heart hammering, feet moving faster than she thought possible. Behind her, the sounds of struggle continued. Shouts, gunshots, the unmistakable thud of bodies hitting the floor. She didn't look back. She couldn't. The garage loomed ahead, dimly lit, vehicles ready for a fast exit. Junhwa guided her into the back of a black SUV, checking doors, securing her seatbelt, and finally taking his place at the front. As the engine roared to life, Zara's pulse raced. They were moving, escaping. Yet the weight of what had just happened pressed heavily on her chest. Did he make it? She asked, voice trembling. Junhwa's jaw tightened. He stayed behind to cover you. You owe him your life. Remember that. Tears pricked at Zara's eyes as she clutched her stomach. I can't believe this is happening, she whispered. Everything I've done, all the danger. And now, you must focus, Junhwa said firmly. Your life, the child's life, survival, that is everything. Hours later, Zara stepped off the plane in London, the chill of the night air a sharp contrast to the suffocating heat of Seoul. She was exhausted, trembling, and yet there was a spark of hope in her chest. She was safe, for now. Kang Dae-shik's lawyer, Mr. Kim Sun-ho, greeted her at the airport, along with a small security detail. Welcome, Mr. Kim said, his tone professional but warm. Everything has been arranged. Your accommodations, security, and financial provisions are all ready. You are safe here. Zara nodded, swallowing hard. The weight of the past few weeks pressed on her shoulders, but she felt a small measure of relief. For the first time since she had entered the mansion, she allowed herself to breathe. The days in London were quiet, almost painfully so. Zara adjusted to the new environment, learning the routines of her guarded life. She settled into the apartment Mr. Kim had arranged, the silence occasionally broken by the soft hum of security monitors and the faint city noises from below. But even in safety, her mind could not rest. Every shadow, every unexpected sound reminded her of the danger she had escaped. It was during this period of adjustment that Zara received the letter. Kang Dae-shik had passed quietly, his final moments hidden from those who might exploit the information. The envelope was thick, sealed with the emblem of the Baekho Syndicate. Her hands shook as she broke the seal, unfolding the pages within. The letter was personal, raw with emotion. Kang reflected on his life, his regrets, and his hopes. He wrote of his daughters, their ambition and their failings. He wrote of the legacy he had built, and of the child she carried, a symbol of hope, a chance for a new path. "You have shown courage beyond measure," the letter read. "Protect this child, protect yourself, and know that I trusted you when no one else could. Live, and do not let this world take your light." Tears streamed down Zara's face as she folded the letter carefully, clutching it to her chest. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of grief, relief, and hope, all at once. Kang was gone. The mansion behind her was a memory, and yet the responsibility remained. The child, her own heart, and the future depended on her strength. Weeks later, the first signs of her pregnancy became more pronounced. Zara visited the doctor, each appointment confirming the life growing inside her. She thought of Kang, of the sacrifices made to protect her, and of the unknown challenges that lay ahead. Junhua remained at her side, unwavering. "Every precaution is in place," he assured her one evening, watching the London skyline from their secured apartment. "Nothing will reach you here. We will protect this child, whatever it takes." Zara nodded, drawing strength from his words, yet the memory of Seoul, the screams, the gunshots, the betrayal, and the sacrifice lingered in every shadow, in every moment of silence. She knew the danger was not gone, only distant. One night she sat in the nursery, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating the small space prepared for her child. "We've survived this far," she whispered to the baby within her, "and we will survive everything else. I promise you that." Even in safety, Zara felt the weight of the past pressing on her shoulders. She had escaped the mansion, survived assassination attempts, and faced the wrath of a powerful family. Yet the journey was far from over. Her life, and the life of the child she carried, was intertwined with a legacy of power, violence, and survival. But in the quiet moments, she allowed herself hope. Kang's final words, "The sacrifice is made," and the presence of Junhua reminded her that strength could endure, courage could survive, and life, even in the shadow of danger, could flourish. And as the first hints of morning light filtered through the London skyline, Zara Obi felt the stirrings of a future she had fought so hard to secure. A future where she could protect the child, honor Kang's trust, and perhaps find peace in a world that had demanded so much from her. Zara has escaped one life of danger, but her challenges are far from over. Would you risk everything to protect your child? The weeks in London had passed in a blur of preparation, tension, and quiet vigilance. Zara Obi felt the weight of the pregnancy in every step, every movement, every heartbeat. Yet despite the constant reminders of fragility, she felt a growing strength within her, an unshakable determination to protect the life she carried. Junhua had become her shadow, her anchor, and her protector. Every day he monitored the apartment, checked security feeds, and ensured that no one, no matter how clever or ruthless, could reach her. Zara had learned to trust him completely, relying on his experience and unwavering loyalty to navigate the invisible dangers that still lingered. One stormy night, the contractions began. Zara's breath came in sharp gasps as Junhua helped her into the waiting medical vehicle. The rain lashed against the windows, drumming a chaotic rhythm that matched the pounding of her heart. The hospital lights glowed like a beacon through the storm as they arrived, the medical staff already prepared. The hours that followed were a blend of pain, endurance, and anticipation. Zara gripped Junhua's hand, feeling the world narrow to the space between each contraction and the life growing within her. She whispered to the child, words of courage, protection, and love, even as exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her. Finally, a cry pierced the room, a sharp, clear sound that cut through the haze of pain and fear. Zara's tears streamed freely as she looked down at her son, small and perfect, his tiny fingers curling instinctively around hers. Jinho, she whispered, naming him for the father who had entrusted her with this legacy. You are safe. I promise you, safe from everything. Junhua placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, his face unreadable but filled with quiet pride. He is strong, he said softly, like his mother. The hospital room, once filled with urgency and fear, became a haven of relief and tentative hope. Zara held her son close, feeling the weight of responsibility and the exhilaration of survival. Every decision, every risk, every step had led to this moment, and for the first time, the world seemed just a little lighter. Even in London, threats from Seoul were not entirely absent. Letters occasionally arrived, subtle reminders that the daughters, Ye-rin, So-ah, and Ji-won, were still scheming, still plotting. Yet Zara had anticipated this. Through careful planning, Junhua's vigilance, and her own growing resilience, they had ensured that no immediate danger could reach her or Jinho. One quiet evening, Zara read Kang Dae-shik's letter once more, the words etched into her memory. His hope, trust, and regrets weighed heavily on her, reminding her of the fragile thread that connected survival, legacy, and choice. She had been given a chance not just to live, but to create a life free from the violence and treachery of the past. The first months in London were a delicate balance of normalcy and vigilance. Zara adjusted to motherhood, learning the rhythms of feeding, changing, and soothing, all while maintaining the strict security protocols necessary to protect Jinho. She discovered a new depth of strength within herself, the fierce love of a mother intertwining with the cunning and resilience she had honed in Seoul. Junhua remained by her side, a constant presence, quietly coordinating security and monitoring any potential threats from afar. Zara came to rely on him not just as a protector, but as a partner in the ongoing fight to preserve her child's safety. His calm authority balanced her anxiety, allowing her to focus on nurturing Jinho while navigating the lingering dangers of a world she could never completely leave behind. One afternoon, as Zara sat by the nursery window, Jinho in her arms, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She thought of the mansion in Seoul, the danger she had faced, the sacrifices made by those who had ensured her escape, and the trust placed in her by Kang Dae-shik. Each memory was a mixture of fear, sorrow, and triumph, a reminder of the path she had survived to tread. Mother, she whispered softly to Jinho, the world is dangerous. Yes, but we are stronger than it. We will face whatever comes, together. Her reflection was interrupted by the subtle hum of her secure phone. A message from Mr. Kim Sun-ho confirmed that the estate had been successfully transferred to a trust for Jinho, with the majority allocated to protect the child and ensure his safety. It was the final safeguard, a legal and financial shield that would secure Jinho's future, independent of the Baekho Syndicate's interference. Zara exhaled, a mixture of relief and exhaustion washing over her. The fight was far from over, but she had won the battle that mattered most: survival, and the beginning of a life free from immediate threat. Yet even as she embraced hope, there remained a quiet tension. She knew the daughters would continue their scheming, that rivals would test the strength of the trust, and that the legacy of the Baekho Syndicate would linger like a shadow over their lives. It was a delicate equilibrium, a constant negotiation between safety and vigilance. Junhua, ever watchful, joined her by the window. You've done well, he said simply. You've protected him, and you've survived everything thrown at you. The rest, we will handle together. Zara nodded, her eyes on Jinho, his small face peaceful as he slept. We've survived so far, she whispered, and we'll survive whatever comes next. I won't let them take him. Not now, not ever. The night settled around them, quiet yet filled with the promise of new beginnings. Zara felt the weight of her journey, the danger, the sacrifice, the loss, and the survival, pressing into her. But instead of fear, there was resolve. The child she held was more than a symbol of legacy. He was hope, a chance to break free from the violence and treachery that had defined so much of her life. And somewhere in the shadows, far from the safe haven of London, the daughters plotted. The syndicate whispered, and the world waited. But Zara Obi, mother and survivor, held the future in her arms. Each day, each moment, was a battle, and she was ready. The story of survival, courage, and resilience had reached a temporary peace, but the open-ended tension lingered. Jinho's future remained unwritten, a delicate balance between inheritance, danger, and the life his mother was determined to protect. Even in safety, Zara knew that life was unpredictable. The threats from afar would persist. But she had faced the impossible and endured. The bond between mother and child, the lessons learned in survival, and the sacrifices made along the way were now her greatest weapons. She whispered once more to Jinho, brushing a strand of hair from his tiny face. "You are strong. You are loved. And whatever comes next, we will face it, together." The storm had passed, but the horizon held uncertainty, danger, and possibility. And for Zara Obi, mother of the Baekho heir, each sunrise was a promise of survival, courage, and the chance to shape a life beyond fear. Zara has faced unimaginable danger and survived. But the story isn't over. Comment below. What would you do to protect your child in a world full of threats? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Her journey of courage, survival, and legacy continues with every challenge she faces.